January the 10th. Wow. 2017. Holy cow. Burp, burp. What the hell? Where the hell did 10 days go to? 10 days? 10 days, yes. Today is day 2 of Rod Adams and crew. And I guess at any time at all, we can expect these people to go down hard for their crimes against humanity. Because these are twisted, out of control nuclear lapdogs, or puke-clear science, as Elaine says this morning, our moderator in the comments section. And hello to everybody on the internet. Hello, how are you? Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We're gonna burn them at the stake. And so this is a complicated story, yeah? La, Dana. Woo, complicated. It's only complicated because we're dealing with these crazy, insane, demented, twisted, out of touch with any kind of moral compass, puke dogs, puke machines. It's people that do this and are educated. These people are not naive. They're not gullible. They're not idiots. They're not somebody who just out to make $1. These are educated, spineless, heartless, soulless creatures. Well, we'll get at it at some point. Here we go. Good morning, everybody. I know a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their mind around it. I'm Dana Durford, the nuclearproctologist.org, and we flush out the vicious nuclear hornet's nest, and we definitely stirred the little boogeyman up this time. Yeah, we did. We stirred him up like you can't even imagine. Yeah, really? Well, what we got for everybody today is day 2, and you don't really need to see episode 1 to get the logistics of this topic. We provide incredible amounts of documentation as we are rolling through the narratives to get you up to speed. This is Unit 4. And Unit 4, the fuel pools are 100 feet in the air. They're the red depictions you see right there. This is 10 years of fuel from the reactor core. Now, you might see me smoking a cigarette sometimes, but mine do not have 7,000 chemicals. And Rod Adams and them like to portray people that smoke are ingesting uranium, which is natural in the environment. You can't avoid it per se, the natural stuff that's in the environment, potassium, etc., is harmless, it's natural stuff. But what they have done is they have muddled that water beyond imagination. Let's look at each of these characters for day 2. Anytime you're ready, Dana. I was ready. I just didn't know. We'll start off with Dave.
Will, why don't you introduce yourself so people can hear your voice and put the name to the voice?
Hi, this is Will Davis, and as Rod said, I write Atomic Power Review. I also write for American Nuclear Society's ANS Nuclear Cafe. I do consulting for them for social media, and I've been writing for Fuel Cycle Week for a while now. It's nice to be here.
So he's a busy boy. Atomic Power Blog, ANS Nuclear Cafe, Fuel Cycle, which is the reactor. So he's not naive or stupid. He understands the fuel. Is everybody willing to accept that? He knows the fuel is up there in top of the building and that it's missing from number 4. There's no way he can't. He writes for them, yeah? Okay. Next.
Gwyneth?
My name is Gwyneth Cravens, and I'm a writer. I publish the occasional article on nuclear power, and I wrote a book called Power to Save the World, The Truth About Nuclear Energy.
And I hear you're a star in a movie.
Pandora.
Well, that is what my fans are telling me, yes.
They're all laughing because they know it's a sick, demented, dirty joke. She wrote 2 books because she is a nuclear mass murdering groupie, and she starred in a new puke propaganda anti-human, anti-species hit piece called Pandora Promise. We flushed that one out before, yes?
And I'm one of those fans, yes.
I expect to be on the cover of Entertainment Weekly or Hollywood Reporter pretty soon.
Yeah, really? That tells you how twisted. They can't fact-check Pandora? Really?
Margaret?
Hey, this is Margaret, and I am not the star of the movie, and nor do I ever want to be.
Nor could you be.
No.
But you were star of TV and radio.
I got to be a little bit of a media rock star a couple years ago. Not.
Now you hear Rod laughing under his breath that time. President of 4-Factor Consulting and writer at Fuel Cycle. So she understands fuel. Let's make no mistake. She understands the difference that the fuel is not there where they're alleging in their story below that we're going to cover. She knows the fuel is supposed to be there and there, and she knows reactor 4 behind me is completely missing all of its 5 reactor cores up above 1 reactor core. See how high the reactor core goes up, the top of the reactor core? So the reactor core right here, so the reactor core is gone. Right? It's completely gone. And the 5 reactor cores in the pools are gone. The 10 years of fuel they got stored in the pool are also gone.
Mostly because I'm a mouth.
She's a mouth.
As you pointed out, had a little bit of knowledge about the BWR and was in a position where I could actually spread the facts of the matter as opposed to the FUD of the matter.
Right. And that's what they ended up doing was the opposite, right? She knows the facts are where the pools are too, and they spend this whole time lying to everybody that ever met him, ever known him, ever come in contact with him, ever read anything about it, or was ever people that were influenced by her narrative. It's really something that these people have no remorse. They have no remorse. Next on the list.
And then Steve Applin is also with us.
Yeah, hi, Steve Applin. I publish Canadian Energy Issues. I'm an energy policy consultant here in Ottawa, Canada. And yeah, the second anniversary of the Fukushima, where many of us predicted basically on the first day this was going to be a low casualty event. And were we right or were we right?
So there's this big pause. That wasn't me. That was a big pause. Now, he knows. He's ex-military.
Well, I believe that we were pretty close.
Now, this is Rod himself, atomic asshole.
Well, I believe that we were pretty close. Let's see. Here's my article, or a quote from my article published on March 12th. During the course of the event, there will almost certainly be a need for at least some of the plant operators to carefully release non-condensable gases from their containment buildings. Some of those gases will be chemically inert gases that contain radioactive isotopes. No one will receive a high enough dose of radiation to cause any negative health effects. So
wow.
That was what I wrote on March 12th, 2011.
So he was hard at the cover up the day after. You couldn't possibly get more heartless than that.
Well,
and then the last guy.
Tell us a little about yourself, Cal.
I'm a PhD student at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and I served 10 years in the Navy, finishing up my tour as an engineer officer on the
10 years in the Navy, working on a nuclear sub, and now he's up here lying to everybody, going to school to get an education to have street creds.
USS Florida Gold. So a little bit of small reactor experience and I guess a glutton for academic punishment. I don't quite know why I'm back in school, but I am back in school. I think it had something to do with the GI Bill. So
laughing, right? Laughing. Something to do with the GI Bill. These people, by the way, that's a healthy polar bear, and there's 3,000 emaciated ones like the one on the right in the Antarctic. We see an extinction event in the Pacific Ocean from Fukushima. So they are doing a radio show. And the radio show, it was one number 199. Fukushima happened 2 years ago. And you see the top paragraph, about halfway down, hot particles about food whose measured radioactivity is less than the natural activity of a banana. So this is an outrageous statement. A glass of beer or a Brazil nut. Now, remember who Rod Adams claims to be. An atomic energy expert. A nuke financial, strategic, and even political analyst, and a former submarine engineering officer. Founder of Adams Atomic Engines, and host and producers of the notorious propaganda creep show, Mass Murdering Central, the Atomic Show podcast. He's remorseless. Truly remorseless. Okay. Now they're going to talk about Miller rims.
And it's that extremely conservative that's an important part of that. They're using linear no threshold to make that assessment.
So let's go back and talk a little bit about what actually happened. What caused this whole thing to go forward? Why did suddenly a prefecture in Japan that most of us had never heard of before become a household word?
Let me take a crack at that because I've talked to some experts, friends of mine in the other at GE. So the events, right, there's a huge earthquake, 3 zones subside, 3 subsidence zones, which is what they're called. It's basically off the shore of Fukushima, it's actually north of Fukushima. The earthquake zone is where one slab of rock is diving under another one, which is the worst kind of earthquake you can have, okay? And 3 zones break at the same time and cause a huge tsunami. So you get a big earthquake, almost a 10. You get this huge tsunami. And it happens that the way the shoreline and the coastline and the underwater geography is, it causes a peak. And there's actually another subtlety that many people are not aware of. The other thing that happened that caused Fukushima Daiichi to see a much larger wave than either Daini or Onagawa, which are 2 also coastally located nuclear power plants a little bit north and a little bit south of Fukushima, didn't see nearly as big a wave. Turns out that waves have a pattern, right? They're waves. It turns out that these 3 subsidence zones hit simultaneously and created a single large wave. They all came in phase into the shore at the same time at Fukushima Daiichi.
So that's called constructive interference, right?
Correct. Trying to avoid the big words.
I like big words, and I got a whole bunch of geeks that listen to this show, so don't be afraid to use them now and again once you've explained it with regular language.
Yeah, so you get the stacking of the waves, which caused a 45-foot wave to hit this coastally located power plant. So it took out their seawall, it took out their diesel generators, it took out their power supply, it took out their diesel tanks, it swept away a number of buildings, it blocked, it put huge chunks of stuff in their way on that site, killed 4 people.
Killed 4 people. Okay. But the whole country was torn up. They got 30 million bags they picked up. These reactors, this whole country is completely radiated. 30 million one-ton bags. The reactors are completely destroyed. They no longer resemble. These reactors were right on the coastline. The tsunami took out over 400 kilometers of the coastline. 400 kilometers of the coastline. It was total devastation from the fallout. And that when you consider how much actual come out of this place, how much damage was done around our country, you kind of get where they're missing.
So there's a couple of other little known things. The earthquake hit, and it was about an hour till the tsunami hit. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about whether or not there was already a loss of coolant going on at Unit 1. I will state here today, I have spoken with the experts who have seen the data. There was no loss of coolant in any of those operating reactors between the earthquake and the tsunami. They had pressure, they had cooling, they were in safe shutdown. The plant scrammed exactly as designed. They were cooling off exactly.
Now, we have evidence to the contrary of them being able to cool. That number one started melting down right away. They're just setting the stage. It's important, but it's not. Let's keep going.
As designed, and then the tsunami hit and took out the diesel. They did lose offsite power during the earthquake. Just off the site, one of the major towers collapsed. Took out the
now,
offsite
she's
power.
saying
so
one of the
generators all kicked on exactly as designed.
That was from the earthquake she was talking about, to be fair, right? So let's keep going. Now, they start making fun, and we're supposed to cover the millirims. We didn't. We'll cover that after. They started making fun.
April 2011.
Pretty much, yep.
They're talking about when TEPCO allegedly carried out earthquake and tsunami study, and they were going to remedy that so it couldn't happen to them. But no one, whether it's true or not, they had many opportunities where they failed to do it. And so we don't think that's true.
So TEPCO actually was looking at the problem, but it wasn't as clear-cut as has been advertised, that TEPCO simply ignored all the warning signs.
Oh, I'm shocked that there are people that are telling lies about TEPCO's confidence as a nuclear operator.
Okay. So he injects all of that kind of weird stuff. I just want you to realize what really happened here, and they knew this had happened. This was before those bags were picked up. They'd done the radio show, but they were well aware of this. Like I showed you, these are not naive and gullible people.
Are you?
But at any rate, these are things I've spent a lot of time talking to people out there who have been deeply involved with TEPCO and with the Japanese government to start to peel apart why this happened, and not to be apologists for TEPCO, but because we want to understand what the hell happened so that we can make sure it doesn't happen someplace else. Even though we can't get any lower loss of life,
boom. We can't get any lower loss of ice. Hey, buddy, I'm on the radio. Or I'll call you back. Okay, buddy. Catch up. Or internet, I should say. That's Terry. Terry was out on the expeditions for us. Let's keep rolling.
Folks, this was a damned expensive mistake.
So she had said you couldn't get a lower loss of life from the radioactive releases from the facility. But she knew these bags weren't picked up yet. And so that's why she said she's not naive or gullible, right? That's what you got to remember about these people. We established that she's not naive. She's not gullible.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to have these valuable assets trashed like this.
Yeah.
Okay, once again, by doing that, the valuable assets is everybody's asset who owned that land, all the homes that used to be there and can never come back there. The tsunami, let's keep going with it.
There's no doubt about that, and we certainly...
Like Todd's saying, Rod's talking about the low loss of life she claimed. But once again, they don't factor in people breathed that, and 10 years down the road, they died from it. Let's keep rolling.
Want to be able to build our nuclear plants close to the load because that's the right place to put them.
And they boil 1 million gallons a minute of salt water. There's 1 billion creatures per glass. So you can do the math on how many billions of creatures they kill a minute at 440 plants.
So we definitely
losses, right.
we want to minimize the impact and the evacuation zones, and
we want to minimize the impact. Now listen to what he's going to say next. This is really shocking.
You know, one of the things I
coming up
do point out is, unfortunately, there was a loss of life because of the fears about the nuclear plants. Somewhere between 600 and 1,000 people perished earlier than they would have. Most of them were already elderly or sick or otherwise enfeebled, but because they were forced to evacuate in bad weather into shelters with inadequate care and on buses with inadequate emergency services, there was a lot of people that died during the evacuation. And
yes.
I think...
Okay, so those people weren't evacuated right away like Rod claims, and they were breathing in the stuff that they picked up later. And they got wicked, incredible, unbelievable, horrific doses. It's like unbelievable what happened to that country. You got to think about 5 reactors cores are missing from the tops of each of those buildings. The reactors were in the center of the building straight up. The fuel pools were 100 feet up. So before pictures, right? And then after, you don't see the pumper truck that Cal ordered in, right? There's the pumper truck, but he's not pumping. Right, and he took the pumper truck away from the building. You can, right? I got better pictures. They put pumper trucks there after, but there's no pull there. That's Unit 3, right? They put a pumper truck there after, but there's no pull there. They put it there to manipulate everybody, and that's why Rod got him there, because everybody died on the right-hand side because of the carnage on the left. Right, they died in the red, and they're missing in the yellow on the right because of what happened on the left. And the power plants are in that same area. Think about all that while you're listening to these people.
This brings up a very important policy.
Oh, let me play that.
You point out is, unfortunately, there was a loss. Emergency services, there was a lot of people that died during the evacuation. And
yes.
I think
that'll come up next time, maybe.
This brings up a very important policy point, and that is what is the role of the regulator in ensuring public safety? Is it the role of the regulator to also ensure and protect these assets, or is that responsibility of ownership of those assets? And I think, especially here in the U.S., we've blurred a lot of that line, and a lot of where the loss of life is imputed in our calculations is through the use of the linear no threshold model. And so that gives the regulator a great deal of authority to assert control into areas that effectively are plant preservation, which is just a responsibility of ownership, because it's not causing a risk to the public.
And so, once again, let's talk about what he's talking about. No risk to the public. Why'd you pick up 30 million? 30 million 1-ton bags. Put 1-ton bag in the back of each truck, and that's 5 rows of traffic around the planet. 5 rows of traffic, bumper to bumper, scratching each other's bumper. and he claims no health effect.
I mean,
people.
I think this accident was actually good to show us what the boogeyman is.
Right. It showed us. Now, he's claiming there's going to be no harm, but there's incredible harm. The people that evacuated after, these people too are getting brutal doses. These people are getting X-rays, gamma shine, neutrons. They died a few weeks later. They're the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society. They're not Harvard or Yale or Berkeley. So they got 10,000 of these dumps around the country. Right? All he sent in there is homeless and destitute.
It's opening up the closet door and turning on the light and really getting to see that we can have the worst thing or beyond worst thing that we could possibly imagine happen and not have a negative consequence associated with it.
No negative consequences right there, yeah? No negative consequences for what they got done. Like going in and looking for people, they had to dress up because of the radiation. They had to dress up because of the radiation. We know because there was actually 30 million bags already picked up in that country.
The LNT hypothesis actually is responsible for those deaths.
Now she's saying that this is hilarious.
Absolutely. Well,
absolutely. She's saying the people who evacuated shouldn't have evacuated. Listen to this.
Those people would have done all right not being evacuated and being kept in their homes with their families. It's quite tragic.
Yeah,
Now she's got a rebuttal, but it's a switch and bait coming up. They had to evacuate because that's why they picked up those 30 million one-ton bags throughout the country. They didn't leave their supermarkets and businesses behind for something to do. They don't bring in the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society because they don't want the money or the contracts. They do it because they don't want that kind of money. 30 million tons of radioactive waste so far is just, you're not even sneezing on the problem. You're not even scratching the surface of the carnage that were actually documented. 30 million bags, Gwen.
I will counter though, and throw the part of the problem the Japanese had was they had significant infrastructure chaos in the region. They had this huge tsunami, took out a lot of the communications, took out a lot of the supporting infrastructure for this area. So, and frankly, they didn't know what was going to happen at these 3 power plants at that point. They were really operating literally in the dark. And so removing people from the region because they couldn't any longer, they just simply didn't have, remember that infrastructure problem. Think about that in terms of Hurricane Sandy in the United States and the horrendous conditions that were along the coast there. If you had on top of that any industrial facility that was in imminent danger of massive failure, which again, they didn't really know at that point, you might be prone to saying, you know what, I think it's best if we just get these people out of here. So I'm not necessarily going to say the Japanese did the wrong thing. They did not evacuate the 50-mile radius that our favorite chairman of the NRC recommended.
Why is he laughing? Think about the laugh he just done, Rod Adams. That's a pretty twisted to laugh about it. So they're talking about they only evacuated, she'll say it, finish it up in a second, 20 miles when the NRC was talking about 50 miles. And they wanted 50 miles because they knew ultimately they were going to go pick up 30 million one-ton bags through the 50-mile region. It was going to be heavily contaminated. There was no way to avoid it because there was total destruction. They knew all this because this was almost the 2nd anniversary that they done their show, yeah? So let's finish that part out.
They evacuated the minimum zone that they felt was necessary to really protect these people from what they were not sure was going to happen. So let's not skewer them too much here for this.
No, I'm not.
That's a very good point, Margaret. I appreciate that.
And she had said they should have stayed. They should have stayed, right? They should have stayed where the 30 million one-ton bags are, because the linear no threshold model, right, is not based upon actual research
of a release. I mean, there's been
Here's
very
MIT.
little that seems to have been released and dispersed beyond the containment. Now, unfortunately, we have very little data, almost no data about how much radiation we can live with in terms of elevated background levels.
Now, that's not true. I'll finish it off by showing you in a second.
All of our data about the health effects of radiation come from a situation in which all the doses delivered in less than a minute. And so we just don't know how much radiation can be, what kind of contamination level can be considered safe.
That's Jacqueline Yates from MIT. Dr. Raymond Gilmedi, his studies showed all the dogs in 94 studies. But in this study, 144, they all died within 5 years. There's many other studies about the health effects of radiation, okay? It's an incredible amount of studies available on radiation. You can go knock your socks off. It's just everywhere. Study after study. They're well aware of it, same as they were aware of Dr. Raymond Gilmedi's studies. And so, let's finish this out, I guess, is the right way to do it. Come over and say hi to everybody. Hugs for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Working so hard to pull this off. We're probably going to go, we might do all month on Rod Adams if he's not careful. Don't shut his pie hole out there, and these little freaks that hang out with him don't sort it out. These people are beyond evil. They're beyond. But you folks, you know that we have to do what we do. We have to push back. We have to expose the liars, manipulators, mass murderers. So we send hugs for everybody. Radical Home Goddess. Hi, everybody. Stacy, Thomas Ackerman, Shanikin, Elaine, which is Shanikin, folks. Censor, and everybody out in the internet land. Broken Star, Neil, Stacy. Hi, everybody. Sherry, good morning, JJ. Neil, we got everybody. I haven't got my glasses on, so whatever. Edward, hello, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Israel, Nep Killer, Censor, we got everybody out there. In TV land, internet land, all over this world, to the apologists. I hope your loved ones don't find out what you're up to. I hope they don't realize it. I hope they come to my show and find out what you're really like. That'll be justice, all on its own. Hugs for everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Day 3 of Rod Adams and the Atomic Arseholes.